Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody is having a lovely Thursday. Thank you for joining us today. We have a full slate for a presentation today, so we're going to get started right away. Everybody, you're familiar with the Wednesday webinar concept. Today we're having it on a Thursday because of the holiday yesterday, but yay. If anybody has any suggestions for speakers or topics, I would love to hear them. Feel free to email me, text me, call me, whatever you want. I am starting to put together part of the slate for 2025 already. We have most of 2024 filled up, and I am welcome to ideas and thoughts from anybody that attends. Today's topic, we are going to talk about when minutes matter, public alert and warning communications. The field of alerts and warning is rapidly evolving with advances in technology, increasing use of social media, new social science research into effective message design, and public expectations of warning services. Emergency managers and community officials must constantly look to update their alert and warning capabilities, their processes, and their messages. Today, participants will consider strategies to reduce process delays in issuing alert and warning messages, maximize message delivery to the public, and then create research-based alert and warning messages that will move individuals to take protective action. I would like to thank Carol Freeman for joining us today. Carol Freeman is a Senior Analyst with Argonne National Preparedness Analytics Center. She has worked on a wide variety of risk communication projects for FEMA, for CDC, the World Health Organization. She currently works with FEMA Resilience to research, design, and deliver technical assistance workshops that help emergency managers improve their disaster preparedness and response plans. Current topics include public alert and warnings, evacuation, shelter-in-place, preparing for dam emergencies, and restoring flow to private sector supply chains. Argonne has delivered FEMA's Public Alert and Warning Communication Technical Assistance Workshop over 20 times since 2020. And she also recently co-authored the report Improving Public Messaging for Evacuation and Shelter-in-Place, Findings and Recommendations for Emergency Managers from Peer-Reviewed Research. So everyone join me in welcoming Carol. Carol, the floor is yours, and you are free to share your screen and begin anytime you want.
Okay, that sounds great. Let me share my screen. All right, do you see my screen?
Nope, still see you.
All right, how
now
about
it's
now?
coming. There we go.
That's great. Okay, so normally this is a 2-day, 4 to 5 hour per day alert and warning technical assistance, and I'm going to give you the highlights in about 45 minutes. So let's get to it. We already talked about what the objectives are for the day. This whole technical assistance is based on the warning and protective action initiation timeline that was first developed by Dennis Maletti and John Sorensen in a work they did called the Guide to Public Alert and Warning for Dam Levee Emergencies. But it really applies across the board to all kinds of emergencies. And you'll see that they really broke down what can the time in between when a threat is detected to when someone takes action. And so there are 3 major components to those delays. One is the process delay, which really talks about the time from when you detect a threat or when you receive notice that there is a threat to when you sort of, as we talk about it, push the button. So you sort of issue an alert and warning to the public. Then there are diffusion delays because not all channels reach every member of the public immediately. So there is that time in between when you push the button and when people receive the message. And then there are behavioral delays. So people do not take immediate action once they receive this message. We're going to go into some of the delays in those taking of action and how you can create messages that will get them to take action faster. Yes, and please do put questions, comments in the chat. I love it when this is sort of engaging. As we said, I've delivered this 20 times. I learn something new every single time I deliver this TA. So I love to get the feedback, and I love to get questions, and I love to hear your best practices because we use those in the TA as well. So why is getting it right so hard? There are so many issues. This is such a complex environment. There can be delays in the process, getting messages from the field, good messages from the field, so you know what the public alert and warning message should say. Getting approval from the messages. We've had in this TA where you have the solo emergency manager to people who have to go up to the elected official to get a message out, and those take time. You've got lots of varying systems, and we'll go into detail on that. And each one of those can have a different kind of reach and different capacities. One of the things that is sort of a constant now is that the public expects to receive warning messages on their phone. So that expectation has really grown in the last few years. So meeting that expectation is becoming more and more important. Another challenge is coordination. So you can have coordination between jurisdictions or within a jurisdiction. You can have universities or hospitals or municipalities that have their own alert and warning systems that need to coordinate with a county or a state. So depending on the issue or the event that's happening. You also have these rapidly evolving threats. We do a wildfire-specific technical assistance now on alerts and warnings once a year because wildfire is so hard. We also do one on dam emergencies. So these kinds of threats can have also implications for your alert and warning program. So how do we maximize message delivery to the public? First, you want to sort of capture all the different channels that you have available to you. So, you have the emergency alert system. That's the crawler that goes under the TV, but not everyone is watching TV anymore. So you've got streaming services now. The FCC is looking to potentially ask the streaming services to show those crawlers, but that is not done yet. And those alerts can go out very broadly as well. So they're really not targeted. Then you have the wireless emergency alerts. National Weather Service sends those out all the time. I did look at some of the participants here in Kentucky, and not all jurisdictions have that ability yet. So perhaps you're relying on your state to offer that service. But that is a great channel. It can be geo-targeted for newer phones. You have 360 characters to have a message, which we'll go into in detail in terms of how you use those effectively. There are some challenges in terms of it could overshoot your desired location. So people beyond the event area could get the WIA and could get confused. Different phones have capabilities to receive different messages. Some only receive the 90, very small percentage, but it still exists. Then you have your reverse 911 systems. You have your opt-in community alerts. People can sign up very specifically for locations. It's nice because you can really target those landlines in specific areas. You can provide clear protective action guidance. Users can customize it, but it really depends on who is signed up, right? And not everyone in the community has signed up for those. On the reverse 911, users are turning away from landlines, so they may not get those. So it's really important to really think through. And if you do have an opt-in system, to think about how you get more community members to sign up for that. You also have other channels. Some locations have sirens. I think in the CSEP area, you have sirens. The population is probably educated about what those sirens are for. So you need to think about are some of your sirens more all hazards? Or could your public education change so that maybe they would know it for wildfire as well? And also we're seeing a lot in California that they're using sirens in a very specific way to alert people to wildfire. So they call it high, low, gotta go, which is a great campaign, I think. So, it means that they don't have to knock on doors, they drive around subdivisions, they play their sirens, the high, low siren. People are educated that if they hear that, it means they need to get out now. So I think that's a really good one. Social media, we have emergency managers that this is their only channel, their Facebook page or their Twitter, mostly the Facebook. So need to think about how you use Facebook, which is normally used in blue sky times, how you're going to use it for an alerting channel as well. The nice thing about social media and Facebook is people can share it then with their community. So you have those, community change agents that sometimes have large followers, or Facebook groups that can get it out to a good number of people as well. There's the NOAA weather radio. We're seeing a lot with amateur radio as well. People are using the RACES. I'd be interested to know if people on here, are you using amateur radio to help reach maybe areas that don't have good cell service, or if you're looking at it as a backup in case of power outages as well. And finally, door-to-door, very effective, but you could be putting staff in danger. You have to have the time to set it up and get the staff to do it. So while a very effective channel as well, it has its challenges. So as I said, WEA is a critical alerting channel, and I did see, and I sort of put the IPAWS map up here of Kentucky, and you'll see, looks like about half the counties. Half the counties are signed up. If you are on this and you have not signed up as well yet, I really encourage you to do that. IPAWS has a lot of resources to support training and to help you sign up. And it is a great channel because you can really target it to very specific polygon areas. I'm going to talk through the 360 character message, which is sufficient to help people know. People who speak Spanish will get a message in Spanish if their phones are set to Spanish languages. You can add in URLs for easier searches to confirm information. And about 60% of phone devices now have that geofencing ability, so that with the drawn polygon, the wireless emergency alert should not go beyond 1/10 mile outside of that polygon. There's still some configuring to be done with that, so you have to be aware of the overshoot beyond your polygon area and describe the area of the alert very carefully. But again, it's a really powerful tool because it goes to all phones in that affected area. But you only want to use it for urgent messages because people can opt out of wireless emergency alerts, and so we don't want that to happen. So just curiosity, I don't think this is our poll. So I just put in the chat if you're authorized to issue a wireless emergency alert, or if you're thinking about it. If not, really strongly suggest that you talk to the state watch office, because they can probably issue a wireless emergency alert on your behalf. Yes. So IPAWS and others are putting in a lot of time on alerting on behalf of processes. So talk to, the Kentucky, is it the watch office that they would talk to? Maybe sort of put it in there about the process, how you would share the polygon information, how they would validate that you are authorized to request the wireless emergency alert. It can save lives. It really can. And good, I see Lexington is authorized. That's great. And Oldham is authorized. Awesome. And also think about, again, alerting on behalf of. We're seeing with cyber issues that, systems can get hacked. So it's nice if you have that sort of backup strategies. One of the things I just want to mention is that National Weather Service, they issue warnings for all severe weather. So tornado, ice storms, flash flood, extreme wind. So that really is their role. But your role includes evacuation, shelter in place. So really important. Maybe active shooter, a local area emergency, landslides, and wildfire. Now, I know National Weather Service is considering moving beyond just a red flag warning into warnings for wildfire, but it's not there yet. So you really need to think about your responsibilities around some of these very urgent threats and how you'll use alerts and warnings. All right, here's our poll. If you could put that up, we're going to ask you to note the alert and warning channels that you do have available. It should be all. I don't know if you set it up that way, but it should be all.
Okay.
Yeah, multiple choice. Excellent.
There we go. Does everybody see it? You may
All right,
check as many as you want. There we go. People are starting to click.
All right, there you go.
I got everybody.
I know from the chat. That we had a few that were able to issue the wireless emergency alert. So
this is the first poll I've done as part of our Wednesday webinar. So make me proud. Everybody click buttons.
He promised a lot of engagement today. Okay, so social media so far is everybody. Great. No weather radio. That's really interesting. Maybe put in the chat, how are you using no weather radio? Is it for non-weather emergency messages, or how are you using that? I'm glad to see we've got some community opt-in systems going, and mobile public announcement systems. Great. Okay.
We good?
That's it. That's great. Thank you for filling out that poll.
No problem. Thank you, everyone.
Nice job.
And then I believe that shared the results again. But we had seen that, right? So now I can stop sharing?
Yes.
Carol? Excellent.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. So also consider that you should use more than one channel. So another thing we want to talk about is identifying, knowing who has what alerting capabilities within your area. So I think I saw in the registration that we had some universities, we see hospitals, school districts, PSAP, public safety answering points, your dispatch centers, dam owner and operators sometimes have alerting capabilities that with sirens that they have. So really knowing who else could be issuing alerts within your community so that you know how to coordinate. And that can be a challenge as well. And knowing if there are different platforms, what the channels are, how you could coordinate that to increase message consistency and deconflict. If your social media, everybody was on here in social media, you should be tagged with each other. So school districts should tag the county, et cetera, and back and forth. So really tag so you can really see what your other alerting patriots are doing. And again, I already talked about alerting on behalf of, but we're seeing a lot of that happen. We're seeing MOUs between counties We're seeing processes between county and municipalities and states, but you really need to think about, again, how are you validating that the request is coming from that authorized person, really important right now, and that you're figured out how you're going to share the polygon if it's a wireless emergency alert. Also for WEAs, plan on dealing with message overreach. And you can do that in two ways. The first way is always make sure, and we'll go through this when we get to the message creation process, always make sure you start the message with the name of the jurisdiction. And, people miss this all the time. Massachusetts had a 911 outage like 2 days ago, statewide. They sent out a wireless emergency alert. They forgot to put the fact that it was from Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency. It went out and hit Vermont. It hit as far away as New York. New York had to put out a wireless emergency alert saying, no, our 911 systems are working. So always remember to put the name of your jurisdiction or entity first in the message so people know who it's coming from in case of overreach. And also the area that's affected is another good way to make sure people know whether they're inside or outside the affected area. Okay, so as I said, this is such a complicated ecosystem. And we've been doing these TAs, probably delivered 20, 25 technical assistance deliveries now. And we hear some of the challenges over and over again. And I think one reason why people love this technical assistance is because they realize they are not alone with these challenges. And some have actually developed working groups specifically to address common challenges. So we see it in the variety of people who have standard operating procedures or SOGs. Some are developing plans, some don't have them, some are informal. So, and even if they have the plans, the challenges are, does everyone know them? This is an area where we're seeing a lot of turnover. So people, the new people coming in may not be familiar with the plan, may not have practiced it. And then the challenge with the authorization process as well. If it's too cumbersome and when a minute matters in an urgent threat, you do not want a cumbersome authorization process. In terms of message design, not all jurisdictions have taken the time to pre-script messages, and I'm going to go through a brand new tool that can really help you get that done. Some, because 90 character messages for WEA are required, they think they have to do the 90, and then it's better than the 360. Whereas we'll get to this in a minute, 90 character messages, if you've tried them, and you probably have the people who have WEA already, they're horrible. I mean, you can't write a good one. So really, there are challenges. You also have challenges of translation, accessibility, experience crafting the message, and then you have the message approval process. And one of the things we've seen is that even if people have taken the training, have practiced it, have pre-scripted, if the people who approve the message don't know what the channels are capable of, don't understand the best practices, they actually may want to wordsmith and actually make a message less effective unintentionally. In terms of opportunities to practice, some, but not all, have tested the process with a tabletop. One of the challenges many people have said is that the injects aren't there yet to really test the alert and warning. So it may be sort of a set aside where really trying to test that approval process or the message development process. So really, if you have tabletop exercises, really make room for a robust alert and warning inject and go through that process, including the message development, authorization and actually pushing the button on different channels. There's a way to do that with iPods. They can put you into a test environment so it won't go out accidentally. Really helpful. And then in terms of challenges with coordination, we see a lot of challenges in terms of different platforms, different technology, different approaches to the use of alert and warning messages. We have a couple of case studies in the TA, and really, you see certain jurisdictions who are putting out social media or wireless emergency alerts, or ordering evacuations, and others that are silent. And that causes a lot of concern for the public now. Again, there's that expectation they're going to receive that warning. I do want to say that WEAs is not always the right decision. This is an example, and you have it in the PDFs that'll get sent out, so you can sort of use this as a starting point potentially. But we're seeing a lot of people create these decision matrix, and this could be especially helpful if you think your leadership may want to send out WEAs when it's not that urgent a threat. So if you get this done, socialize it in advance with your, those who will authorize it, can really help them make good decisions in the moment in terms of which channels to use. Okay, so this is the last slide here on processes. So if there's any questions in terms of anything that we've talked about so far, please feel free to put it in the chat. I can see the chat as well, and we can talk about it. That's what we're here for. So, effective strategies to minimize your process delays is putting into place standard operating guidance documents, and then drilling them, exercising them during working and non-working hours, especially for counties that don't have a lot of staff. That is something that has come up as a challenge, is that there may be one person who really knows the system, and they may be gone for the weekend. We all know that emergencies happen on nights and weekends, right? So who's there that would take that person's place, that knows the system, that can get into the systems and can issue the alerts and warnings? Making sure that you have responsibilities for issuance clearly assigned, minimizing the number of people involved, and having those backup processes in place. Getting authorized to issue WEAs, again, I really recommend that for anyone on here who is not authorized yet. The IPAWS group is really great at helping you through that. They want everyone to be able to issue WEAs. Getting trained. There's a new message design dashboard. I'll show that to you in a minute, that can really help you pre-script those messages for your likely emergencies and threats. That effective strategy is really reaching out to those within your jurisdiction or adjoining jurisdictions and coordinating how you can confirm threats, how you can work together to alert communities at risk. And then thinking about backup communications, if you have a power outage, especially for wildfire, we're seeing a lot of public safety power shutoffs. It's moving beyond just the West Coast now into other areas that are at risk of wildfire. And so really thinking through how you would be affected by public safety power shutoffs, and how your community will be affected by public safety power shutoffs. I'd love to see more work happening in that space particularly. All right. Well, that was it on processes. I don't see any questions in the chat. So you're a quiet group. So we're going to move into how people react. So we're getting to those behavioral delays that I talked about here. And it is true, people do not automatically act on your alert and warning. So our challenge is to convince the public they are at risk and they should take effective action in a timely manner. And that's a big challenge. A lot of social science research has been going into this. So we're here in the protective action initiation timeline. So from when the people receive the alert from any one of the channels or multiple channels. As I mentioned, using multiple channels is really important, not relying on any one to reach every member of your community. So I'm going to go into just one of the social science research. There's a lot of social science research that's been on here. This was specifically around communicating actionable risks for both terrorism and other hazards. And so one of the things they say is that, again, I've received information on what to do from many trusted sources. So who are our trusted sources? Your emergency management agency. It could be elected officials. It could be fire and police. It could be a parent. I know that once my son was at a bar at a beach, got a tornado warning, and his first thought was, let me call my mom and make sure I should actually do something about this. So you have to think through who your trusted sources of information are. Information density in this context means those multiple sources and having good information within those sources. Interestingly, the research says that people really like to see visual or confirmatory cues from either being able to see, hear, or smell something. That's why so many people with a tornado warning, what's the first thing they do? They go outside. Can they see something? People also will want to see wildfire. Do I see a fire? Do I smell smoke? They're looking for the cues. Can I see water? So some strategies around that might be to use your social media, take photos, show people the risk is real. Milling. So this is a really important finding, is that people want to confirm that this is the right decision. I just told you that, my son, instead of finding shelter at the bar where he's sitting next to a window, called me. He wanted to make sure that he was going to make the right decision. So people will want confirmatory information. They will research on their phone. Social media use jumps so much during these times. We're seeing on the wildfire front the new apps coming out for people to sort of share information with each other. So that milling is real, and we want to shorten that milling time. The other thing is efficacy. And this comes up again in the social science research. People have to believe they can take the appropriate action, and that by taking that action, it will make a difference for them. So that's a really important part. They have to have efficacy around this as well. So I just went through that super quick. The only thing I see on this list is sometimes whether they see others taking action. So interestingly enough, if you've done, who here has issued an evacuation order or recommendation? Has anybody here issued an evacuation? Go ahead and put it in the chat or come off mute. One of the findings from the research is that, again, people want to confirm that if they get the evacuation order or they get the recommendation to evacuate, that's the right decision. If they do not see their neighbors evacuating, they are less likely to evacuate. On the other hand, even if they're outside the evacuation zone, if they see others evacuating, they will evacuate. So seeing others take action or not take action is really important. So Oldham has not had to do that. The state has done evacuation a couple of times for flooding. So just know, again, maybe your social media can show people evacuating. That can really maybe take the place of that, or working with associations that could confirm that's the right action. But that is certainly something that we see. So I told you that there are specific ways to design an alert and warning message that will reduce milling. That this has been confirmed again and again. And Jeanette Sutton, if you don't know her, is doing amazing work in this field to continue to show that this is the case. So first, again, say who the source is. Use local, familiar, trusted sources, and no new acronyms. For your 360 character message, it is worth the character count to put in your full name. You know, you could have transient populations that don't know your acronyms, so spell it out. Hazard. Describe the event in plain language. Convey certainty. For example, with tornadoes, you could say touched down. That conveys certainty that the tornado has touched down. In terms of locations, you want to use familiar landmarks and known physical boundaries. That is sometimes one of the hardest things to do because you have to do it on the fly, depending on what the threat is. In terms of the protective action, you want to explain the actions needed for health and safety. The use of the judicious use of caps, so not all capped messages, but judicious use of caps in terms of saying now or immediately can really drive action. It sort of gets people going. Okay, now I gotta go. And then if you have a space to sort of say, okay, how can you tell people that if you do this, it will make a difference to you? It will make you safer by doing this. And then the expiration time can be very important as well. If you have space, that is great. If not, it's slightly less important than the initiation time, getting to know when to take action. And there's some other things as well. So you really are looking to make sure that you're using 6th grade reading levels, terms with shared meaning. So one of the things we're finding over and over again is that a term like shelter in place has really lost its meaning. I think for the CSEPP community, shelter in place means something very specific, but we've seen it used for active shooter. We've seen it sometimes used for tornadoes. We've seen it used, you know, pandemic sort of screwed it all up too. So using the plain language of the actual actions you want people to take, really important. Give them links to trusted sources so they can validate very quickly. You don't want the searching on Google for those links. You want to give it to them. If you have the ability to create a map so they can see themselves and see themselves inside an area that's at risk, that is really helpful as well. I'll show you some examples. Any questions on that? Is this something you're already using, or is this relatively new? Yes, yeah. Shelter in place, you know, I actually think we should stop using it because it is so confusing now. And even with I do a lot of dam emergency technical assistance, and you know, shelter in place, it's super problematic. People think they should go to a shelter when we say shelter in place half the time. All right, I'm showing you a 90 character wireless emergency alert, and these are based on the best you can do. And the only reason I'm showing this to you is to show that it will cause confusion and milling. It is more of an alert, which is saying that people should be aware that there's danger, versus a warning that gives people the information that tells them what to do. So just be aware, even though for wireless emergency alerts, it's still required. The 360 goes to like 90% of the phones now, so use the 360 as well as the 90. I mentioned the message design dashboard. So I really encourage you to get the training. There's now a virtual training on this. It is a great user experience developed training. You can use it to create warning messages. So you can use it to pre-script. You can even use it in the moment to create alert and warning messages. And it's been done through a lot of both user experience to try and make the process easy, but again, bringing that social science into it. And I'll show you some examples of that, but definitely take this training. And then I would also look at the study that they did, and there's a appendix to that study that gives you all of the warning message material content that you could use. So really encourage you to do that. And here's an example. You sort of build the warning messages as you go. It gives you this preview screen. It gives you the content for the protective action and the how to get the user attention. So it's all spelled out for you there. You could use it for prescription.
Hey, Carol, I have a question.
Yeah.
For the message design dashboard, can people that don't actually have authority, that don't push out wireless emergency alerts, access that? That would be question number one. And then question number two would be, would people benefit from using that in developing messages that they may put out on like social media or in other means?
Boy, that's a great point. And I completely agree with you, because it's giving you the words, right? The content that will move people to action. So you could put out a very similar message on your social media. You could use this in a press release. You could use this information if your PIO is going to go out there. So yes, and I think so, because I know I've taken the message design dashboard training and I am not an authorized WIA user. So, but I will say this, all the content is in that appendix. So you don't, if you're just using, I did the two examples that we're going to show now, pulling from that appendix. And so let's go there. And for example, what it does is it gives you language which, so this one is on a dam levee failure, but when I do the dam TA, there's actually a preceding one where it talks about the potential for a failure. So it even gives you that kind of language. It's not just, this one. It might have, if you're leading up to the potential, it gives you that as well. So look for those supplemental materials. I really, really, they're a game changer. They're absolutely a game changer in this area. So here, you see it's following the right methodology in terms of the local authoritative source, the description of the event, where it can give you the language, it will do that, right? So, and that's really the description of the threat and event and the protective action. So here for a dam emergency, and I don't know if you all have dams in your jurisdictions, but since I do a dam TA, I've used it. You have the source and then the failure, dam levee failure, and that the brackets, of course, are to put the name of the dam in. Failure is in caps to get people's attention. You've got the location in a bracket, so you can add that in. But, listen to the words. So potential for life-threatening flooding to occur and catastrophic amounts of fast-moving water. I mean, that gets your attention, right? Catastrophic amounts of fast-moving water. Leave areas near the location, leave in caps, move to higher ground. So really, that sort of verb, leave, move, follow, stay away, in caps to get people's attention and sort of emphasize things. The coloring is of my own. So the coloring would be normal, but the coloring is my own. Any questions on that one? I'll give you another example. So this is the wildfire one, and I like to show it because it shows how the words change by the threat. So in this one, you have a wildfire warning. If you use the Ready, Set, Go, you can use that as well, because that's becoming more and more widely used. Visibility in area will be reduced, and roads, evacuation routes can be blocked. If you do not leave, you'll be trapped, injured, or killed. I mean, that is pretty direct. Leave areas, capital leave, move, and in this case, the idea is to move in the directional area away from the fumes, the smoke, the fire. And then if there are specific areas not to use, that would be included as well in case some roads are already blocked. So you can see those two examples. I just love the fact that it gives you that language on how to describe the protective action and how to describe the consequences of not taking protective action as well. Really good stuff. Any questions? We're really getting to the end here. How to practice. So this is actually, we've had New York City participate in a lot of our different TAs, and they described one of the things they do as a WEA Wednesday. So they, on a monthly basis, on a Wednesday, they ask all the emergency management staff. They give them the scenario and they ask them to write that 360-character message. So what they have found is that this provides regular opportunities to practice, reduces their anxiety, staff anxiety around developing a WEA language, and reduce their fear of that open space on the templates. So, you know, they've got a lot of pre-scripted messaging, but with the brackets to put in things. And so this gets people to practice how you describe a location, what words that might be capitalized, etc. Also, you know, I pause, if you do have the WEA, they require monthly proficiency demonstrations, but they've added a lot of sort of scenarios now to make it more interesting than just, you know, I can push these buttons in this order kind of thing. So take advantage of some of these opportunities or ideas for practicing, because one of the things we found is that there is so much anxiety around pushing the button that it's really important to sort of do everything you can to help the staff that is gonna have to push the buttons to do that in a timely manner. I also, are you familiar with this PBS Warn? Have you heard of PBS Warn before? You can see the URLs down here, warn.pbs.org. This is nice because it gives you a dashboard and it shows you all of the active WEA messages. So all the National Weather Service messages. So, you know, go right now and look at it. I looked this morning, there were only 2 flash flood warnings in the whole country. I didn't see any wildfire warnings, which with the New Mexico wildfires, I must say I was expected to see this. So it's really interesting just to bookmark this. You see the polygon. So for National Weather Service for your areas, if they're issuing warning messages, it's really nice to be able to see that polygon right there. It's really great. It also shows you some expired, so you can really go into it and do some research if you want in terms of the types of messages, see what other messages. Not all the messages are on there are good messages, so don't just in case, make sure that you're following that guidance I showed you instead of, you know, any of the other ones. And this can sort of give you that verification option when you're looking at message reach. So, and this is how it shows up in PBS Warn. This kind of information is how it shows up. Okay, so my final slide, in summary, use multiple alerting channels appropriate to the threat. Really think through maybe that decision matrix and create one for yourselves, and then share it so that everyone is on the same page about what channels would be used for what threat when. Save you so much time and anxiety, especially when you get to some of those urgent threats. Use those 360 characters WIAs and use the message design dashboard content to pre-script them. And when you pre-script them, make sure you're really thinking about those things that are making people pause. So make sure that people know they are in danger, convey urgency through some of those caps and other sort of language. Make sure your location information is relatable. Be very specific about protective actions. Do not use your jargon. Use commonly understood phrases. And then provide links for more information. Maybe you all might have a dark website page that you pull up when there's an emergency, or for CSEPP, I'm sure you have maps of potential areas of interest. Okay, so let me go back to the message design dashboard because I did put the URL in there. I thought I did. I thought I did. Here's the training. And then here, if you Google this, just Google the warning lexicon. Even though it is a journal publication, they negotiated so that it is freely available. And when you Google it, then look for the supplemental material as well.
Carol is going to share this presentation with me, and I will make sure that I send out a copy to everyone that's attending today. So that was going to be one of my questions as well, was where do we find the dashboard training? So thank you.
Yeah, and then there's a training. And then I did send the PDF, so let me know if I need to send the PDF again. I'm happy to do that. I'd send it on Monday, I think.
Yes, unless it has changed, we should be fine. But if you updated it, then you could send me the new one. But I have it, and I will make sure I will share it with the attendees. Excellent.
Great. Any other questions? I went through again. I did want to say that if folks are interested in joining the full alert and warning technical assistance, put your emails in here. We keep a sort of a running list of people who, and we give you sort of advance notice of the next one. We're holding one right now. So the next one will probably be sometime this fall. We do it so it's a relatively small group and you get a lot of working group opportunities so you can talk to others. We actually have people that take this is the same content, they take it again because they just love having the opportunity to talk to other people who are issuing alerts and warnings, to share their challenges, to get ideas on how to overcome, like, opt-in systems or other challenges they have. So really, it's a great opportunity. We've been doing it for 3 years and we have not reached everyone we want to reach yet. So happy to have any one of you join for that longer one as well.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Carol? Carol, if you want to give me my screen back, I will share my screen. If you have a question for Carol, you can unmute yourself. You can ask her if you would like. You can put it in the chat, and I will make sure she sees it. While we are waiting for that, Carol, I have a couple things. One, I am working on a marketing plan for CSEPP, and we are going to do a short 30-second commercial on wireless emergency alerts. So I'm hoping that I can talk to you offline sometime and maybe kind of review the messages we intend on sending out. So that would be great. And then 2, you mentioned it early on when you came on that the public expects messages on their phone. Here's my question. How do you combat or balance people that are annoyed by messages on their phone, especially when it's an accidental, release of a message?
Yeah, first of all, it's a really good point. Mistakes are going to happen. The Massachusetts mistake, it's going to happen. So you also need to think through how you're going to respond to a mistake when it happens. So Massachusetts, they sent a WIA almost immediately afterwards, making sure that people knew. that they had done it. So we are seeing, people sort of think through and get better able to handle those kinds of errors on. And that is, so on your point about fatigue, right? So warning fatigue, right? You'll see National Weather Service is actually doing some things. They now only have WEAs or on flooding. They've really ratcheted up the threat level for flooding because they knew that they were sort of over warning on floods. And that's why I like to see the matrix. During COVID, honestly, people were using WEA too much on COVID. Like, you really need to focus it on urgent threats. And let people know, and make sure that your elected officials know, this is not, we're not going to use it except for very urgent threats. I will also say that they did some research, very interesting research on the national tests that happened recently. And one of the things they found is that states where they issued a lot of statewide Amber Alerts actually had more people opt out of the wireless emergency alerts. So I guess I would say as well, careful on the use of this for Amber Alerts. Maybe not at night too. Like, that is one of the things, like when you wake people up at night, it should be for an urgent threat, so that they do not opt out. And I would actually like to see a national campaign on the importance of opting in to wireless emergency alerts, but we have to be considerate of making sure that we're only using them for the most urgent scenarios.
Excellent. Thank you. And yeah, definitely offline, I want to talk to you about that opting in part, because that's one of the struggles I'm having with is developing the language. I don't want to give them the idea of turning it off. So I can't wait to talk to you about that. Does anybody else have any questions for Carol? All righty, seeing none, thank you so much, Carol. This has been great. Everybody's hang around for just a second. I'm going to share my screen. I'll give you a couple of updates of what we have going on. So you know how to get a hold of me. Upcoming dates. So next month, our July webinar, which will be back to a Wednesday, is going to be lessons learned and best practices from crisis communications in the UNLV campus shooting. So we have a gentleman speaking that covered that in December of 2023. He's going to give us all kinds of insights on that. And then in August, we have Allison Turner is going to come talk about the National Economic Resilience Data Explorer. And it's a tool that she's going to teach us to use, hopefully, and get all kinds of good information on. So looking forward to that. Registration for both of those is open. You can register anytime. I will follow up today's webinar with an email. Hopefully by early next week at the latest. I will send you a copy of the PowerPoint. I will send you a link to the recording. And yeah, I think that is pretty much covers it. So if there are no more questions, Zach, I will make sure that you get the link to the registration for the upcoming events. You can always go to our KYEM website under training, and they're always listed there as soon as they open up. But I'll make sure you get a link to that. And absolutely, Carol, you absolutely can join us. I will make sure you get a link to it as well. There you go. Yes, Zach, that is the training page. All of our events are up there. They're usually there before I even announce them publicly, so that's good. So if there are no more questions, again, thank you, Carol. Appreciate it. It is almost 1 o'clock, so we're right on schedule. I want everybody to have a great day and a great upcoming weekend. It's going to be hot here in Kentucky. Stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, be safe, and we will see you guys next month. Thank you.
Thank you so much.